I'll then come in, and then I'll go up the full 12. This way, when you're on the street, you don't feel like the 12 is coming right down to you. And I'll make it more of a pencil tower as opposed to a big, big, every inch filled up. I'll use good architectural, good urban design. And I will condition my project so that I have the building face this way, not that way, so there's less glass parallel to the neighbors. Okay, if you agree with those conditions, we can then find support for your project. So it's not a matter of 12 or nothing. It's, okay, how do I get staff to support me? And usually they support me by me agreeing to conditions. Where the lighting goes, where the dumpster goes, limit the noise, limit access, limit times of delivery. You know, if you live in a subdivision, you wouldn't want Walmart having deliveries come at 2 in the morning with the backup beep, beep, beep noise. So you don't throw the whole Walmart out, you agree to limit operations. Your job is to get the yes. So if you have to get your project approved and there's 7 conditions, if you limit the conditions and they work, that's what you do. Chapter 20, 213. When you do really big projects, you're probably going to have a site plan. Even if it's been permitted as of right, they very well might say, well, we want to see where it's located. You got your 12-acre, okay, let's pick on Winn-Dixie, I haven't picked on that yet. You got your Winn-Dixie 40-acre shopping center. You're going to blow it up. You're now going to put good stuff back in. All of the stuff you're putting back in, you're allowed as of right, because it's all going to be commercial and maybe mixed multifamily. It's all permitted. But the government's still going to want to see where it goes on the site plan. They have the right to do that under public health, safety, welfare. So you hire your architects, you hire your land planners, and you go through site plan review. That's really what governments approve. They're either doing a comp plan amendment or rezoning, but if you don't need those done, what they're doing is, this is my 40 acres, this is where I want to lay the stuff out, this is what I need you to approve. They want to make sure you have the right access points. We were talking before about a Walmart that, given its location, it wants to have a certain access to roads, and there's one of them that's going to cost a lot of money. Sometimes you can't get the access that you want. Site plan is really what it's all about. And you go to the top of page 214, lines 2 and 3. They focus largely on density and use. Now those are the easy two, because your land planner is not going to make you have a project that's too dense or too much floor area ratio that's not allowed. And they're not going to design uses that are not allowed either. If you have density, if you want density that's not allowed or a use that's not allowed, then you have to do a rezoning. But assuming the amount of density, intensity, and use that you have is allowed, go down to line 3 at the top of 214. Design. Government has the right to help you design your project. Okay? Now we've all seen strip shopping centers without parcels. It might be fast food or a bank. If they want it set back 6 feet more from the sidewalk or 6 feet closer, and you still get your project approved, do you care? No. Say, sure, great idea, let's move on. You know? So government, that's where the subjectivity comes in, the design of the project. Work with them. Look at the bottom of 214, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boca Raton zoning code 214, 5 up from the bottom, did not want the clowns with balloons at the car dealership. That's what they were trying to avoid. And they took the approach of writing a zoning code that basically killed, gutted any car dealership. But if you're in another jurisdiction and it's a conditional use, and you may not get your votes because they're really afraid that you're going to have the cars with the balloons and the hot dogs and the big American flag bigger than this whole building flying on the 4th of July, and that's what's stopping. Just say, okay, I will condition my approvals that there's no clowns, there's no balloons. I will condition my approvals, we will not have all the hoods open as you drive by with the word S-A-L-E, sale, the whole way. We won't have the big American, you know, whatever the conditions are. Your goal is to get to yes. You know what I mean? (215), first full paragraph. The site plan review process is a bit like a dance. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you let someone else go to the left or right. You go back and forth. It's not straight. It's not absolute. And what you have to do is whatever you have to do to get it done. And if it's limit certain things in a location, move the dumpster, not do this, not do that, whatever you have to agree with. That's why, remember I said this? Your pro forma is like dating. It's always best on day one, and then usually it's down from that. You're going to do your site plan, your pro forma, based on you getting as much density in the best locations for you. That you can get as much and build it as cheap as possible, get to the market quickest. Government might have a different opinion of where they want things located. And it might affect your pro forma. But at the end of the day, you have to know how much you can give and take. Okay? Assume they're going to take more than you want. But you have to know that you don't need 39 stories to make money. And if you fight to get 39, you might end up with nothing. Okay, variance. I don't want to spend much time on variance because it's a very misused word. 218 up at the top in quotes, it's a relief valve. The variance is not, well, I know the mayor, therefore I get to do what I want. No. The perfect example is this. We write a zoning code under the assumption everyone's on a rectangle lot. Then you can have side setbacks, front setbacks. What do you do in the pie-shaped corner? It doesn't quite work out. You need to have a hardship. So I want you to highlight your book, third full paragraph on 219, line 4. Well, that's 219, third full paragraph, line 4 in quotes. Practical difficulty and unnecessary hardship. We're not going to make your property remain vacant because it's odd-shaped, doesn't fit our code. We're going to work with you unless you cause the problem. And then that goes to the last paragraph in 219. The need for the variance cannot be self-created. If you have a piece of property that is 18,000 square feet, and then you divide the property into 2 lots that are 9,000 apiece, but the minimum size lot has to be 10,000, they're not going to let you do that because you've created your own problem. You can't create a problem, you know? But if you, in good faith, have a problem where your property doesn't meet the code, then you can get a variance. Look at the bottom of 220, go to the top of 221. Again, to be successful at real estate development and zoning, you need to identify all possible ways to get the result you want, then orchestrate which approach to use first, then second, third, and then figure it out. If you can get through the process with the least amount of resistance and get to construction sooner, do that. May not happen. You might have to go through a different approach. $225. I hate to say this, but there's bad people out there. 225, second paragraph, opposition. These bad people are known as environmentalists. They're not here to help you. They can be at a national, regional, state level. I don't know if I told you this story. I was doing work in Maryland. I had over 1,000 acres on the Potomac River. We were going to give over 400 acres as a conservation easement forever for the public of Maryland. We weren't going to touch that. But on the other part, I needed to permanently destroy about 8/10 of an acre of land to get my bridges to cross over certain wetlands. So it's like, let me screw up forever 8/10 of an acre of wetlands with concrete and platforms, and I'll give you 400 acres. I got sued by the Sierra Club. I spent $600,000, bless you, with Beveridge and Diamond, the best environmental firm, to fight this. We finally settled. We settled only because Governor Glenn Denny of Maryland was up for re-election, and he had a very poor record on the environment, so he basically bought out our whole project, turned it into a park, gave us $24 million in state money. We cashed out. He got re-elected because he's now the green environmentalist. But I was speaking with the Sierra Club people, and I said, "What, you sue me? 8/10 of an acre I was going to destroy a beautiful, pristine wetlands. I was going to give you 400. Oh, you missed the point, Peter. We pick 10 projects around the United States every year to file a lawsuit so we can then sue you to then use that to drum up contributions from all these other people to see how good we were. And since you were there in the greater Washington, D.C. area on the Potomac, my property was called Chapman's Landing. Mr. Chapman was George Washington's executor of his will. So this was historic things. We figured we could get a lot of donations from a lot of kooks. They didn't call them kooks. But you get caught up in the crossfires, you know, of this stuff. You try to stay below the radar. Sometimes you can't, you know. Sometimes, you know, they just come out. 228. Last 4 lines. It is much better to work out your differences before or during the public hearing and have the matter go to a vote with the accommodation built into the approvals. Politicians don't have backbones. They want the developer and the neighbors to cut the deal, go there, and they want you to pay homage to them to tell you how great their leadership was and how you work with the community so they can vote and not have to take any political risk. Cut your deal on the courthouse steps. Cut your deal on City Hall steps before the public meeting. Don't try to do a floor fight. You know, maybe you've seen those movies where people are trying to get elected President of the United States for their party, and there's the big convention, and they're going to come out and they're going to have the floor. No, you cut the deal before the floor fight. You don't know how it's going to work out. You just don't know who has the politics. Now, the one thing they say about our president is whoever has his ear last is the way he goes. And maybe that's the case. So at 9:01, no, we're not doing tariffs against China. At 9:05, yeah, we are. You just don't know. You don't know who else can get to who up there. Okay? Cut your deal. And I think there's a biblical passage in the New Testament that kind of like says the same thing. You better square up with your adversary on the way to the courthouse, because back then they might throw your ass in debtor's prison. Cut your deal. It's all about cut. This isn't about justice. When I was getting taken advantage of by the Sierra Club, I had to not let it be personal. I had to cut a deal and find whatever I have to do to get it done. 230 though. First full paragraph. Additionally, zoning campaigns, both on the developer side and opposition side, are very expensive. Line 3. Lawyers, engineers, planners, appraisals, traffic people, environmentals, all cost money. He once was spending $2,000 an hour. That's junk change. When I had land use lawyers in there at $550, $650 an hour, I got every other traffic consultant, the meter's running. Second full paragraph. The best strategy is to start with, on either side, is the appearance and hopefully the reality of financial strength, commitment, and sustainability. In the next paragraph, for most opposition efforts, it's important to find a sufficient war chest to carry through. Litigation is very expensive. When I was working with the Blackstone Group or the Trump Group, we didn't even need to remind them how much money we had. They knew that. But what they had was time delay. Okay, you can beat us up, we know that, but for a simple $10,000, we can hire a lawyer to file a lawsuit. We'll slow you down for a year, and that's our thing, because time is money. Okay? It is a war, though. 231, second paragraph, starts with a few simple things, but the last sentence there. No disrespect to any of you, but I probably wouldn't hire a single one of you. No. I'm giving you my best knowledge. I wouldn't hire any of you. I'm going to hire whoever runs political campaigns at the local level. Whoever gets the clowns elected to sit up there in the dais, that's who I want. Because getting a project approved is like trying to get someone elected. Or, did any of you brush your teeth this morning? Good. I usually do it during the week, sometimes the weekends I skip. Do you want to know something? I like Arm & Hammer toothpaste. Because they claim it's baking soda. Let me tell you something.
Fluoride.
Toothpaste is toothpaste is toothpaste. But the people who make toothpaste spend hundreds of millions of dollars on Madison Avenue convincing you that it's different. Okay? So I will always buy the Arm & Hammer. I don't even look at the price anymore. They can jack it up. They got me hook, line, and sinker. Whether you're selling toothpaste or you're trying to put someone in the White House or put someone in the City Commission of Fort Lauderdale, whoever gets to pull those strings is who you hire. Not you necessarily. Your job is to hire that person. So who are the lobbyists? Who are the people who can move political opinion? We all know about Harvey Weinstein, right? Mm-hmm. Not a good guy. He has the best fixer, shaker, political. That person can't help Harvey Weinstein. Sometimes it goes beyond. But that same person who is representing Harvey Weinstein has represented like Paris Hilton and everyone else when they get into trouble. Sometimes, but you need to put the political face. It's essentially a political campaign. And what we know is this. We all have heard many bad things about people on the left and many bad things about people on the right. Some of them are true. Some of them aren't. It doesn't matter about truth, it's about perception. You know? So if the perception is your kids are going to die if that Walmart gets approved, and that's what's being pushed out there, there's no statistics of that. You know? There's greater people dying from Brightline train than there are from my Walmart. But if people think that Walmart being approved is going to have your kid in a wheelchair or dead, and that's the image, and that's how you have to do this, and that's what the political people are saying, that's who you hire. Okay? So, just like you have a site planner, an engineer, a land use lawyer, hire a political consultant. if the stakes are that high. Now, if it's just a simple gas station on the corner and there's a gas station on the other 3 corners and no one's going to object, you don't need that. But just remember, it's war. There's an expression, and I don't like to use the word gun in a school, however, the expression is, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. If the other side is saying that their kids are going to die because of my project, I better be bringing the right people to help counterbalance that. 233, second full paragraph. What distinguishes the opposition from the applicant is the opponents need to win on only one critical factor to stop a project. In contrast, however, the applicant must demonstrate compliance with all criteria of the code. Go down 2 paragraphs. You see the word first? First, the opponents must damage or destroy the applicant's credibility. He filed bankruptcy. He doesn't have his loan commitment. He abused his first wife and now has his second trophy wife. No, I don't. My first and only wife is actually 92 days older than me, but she looks half my age. You know, because she gets the benefits of the money I make for her.
True story.
So, but if people say, well, if you look at my wife, she looks like my second wife, because most people who are 57, you know, she looks like she's 12. You know, she's, I'm a gift, thank you, God. But my point is, all you have to say is, oh, did you hear what he did to his first wife? He beat her and he didn't leave her any money. Now he's got the second one. No, but if it's out there, now the people in the dais, they think I'm a wife beater. They think I'm an adulterer. I think I'm a Democrat, you know. Whatever my point is. I'm trying to make a point. It's war out there. Okay? The other side doesn't need to play fair. Because guess what? They're not going to get kicked out of heaven or hell because they lied at a public meeting to stop a Walmart. But you now might be stuck with a $24 million investment on dirt that you can't put the project that you want. So don't be naive.
I mean, how do you counteract that, though? Like a character.
Hire people that don't have conscience.
I tell my mistress to stay home. Hire my wife with a, you know, marriage certificate that says.
But if it's false and they come up with it, like, how do you kind of just talking about it is kind of saying that you're fighting against? No.
It's no different than when campaigns give too much money and then you get slapped on the wrist, but you get the decision that you did it wrong after the election. It's a cesspool. This process is a cesspool. The only thing worse than the land use political process is the political getting elected in the first place. But it's really no different. Okay? Picture the things that came out of our president's mouth to get into 1600.
Yeah.
It comes out of homeowners' mouths if that's what it has to do. Because they don't want this in their backyard. They don't want to see your project. They don't care about your pro forma. 235, third paragraph. The second objective that you will want to accomplish during the public hearing is to leave the board with questions about the applicant's testimony. Oh, wow, he doesn't have his loan commitment. God, he may not have the ability to do this project. No, you idiot. I told you, you get the loan commitment 6 months down the road. We're blacks. We have all the money in the... No, he doesn't have his loan commitment. Oh, God, that's bad. Maybe he did kick his door. That's why. Whatever you have to do, because you don't know the calculus that goes into those people voting. Because think about this. Just like you're gonna lobby them, and you're gonna send emails, so the neighbors. But this is the difference. Chances are you don't shop at Winn-Dixie, but the elected officials might, and the neighbors might, and they speak. You never know who gets to the person last. Third, who's married in the room? You're married. Can I ask you a question? Where did you hide the knife after you killed your wife? Come on, where is it? Where did you hide the wife? I mean the knife.
It's
a leading question.
You're trying to prove a negative now.
Right.
Okay? What do you mean? My wife's still alive. Well, where's the knife? I put you trying to prove something. Third, 236. And third and finally, you want to back the applicant into the corner to prove a negative. Okay? Never killed his wife. His wife's right here. Maybe that's not the best example, but I got your attention. Whatever you have to do, they made a big deal about Trump's bankruptcies. You understand there's chapter 7 where you say, I give up. And then there's chapter 11 where you basically beat up on the bondholders and you basically now get your own project back.
And your money.
And your money, and now you've taken advantage of other people's money. That's called business. I hope you're learning that here. But the papers will say Trump bankrupt. What the papers won't say is Trump used the bankruptcy code to make $100 million in his pocket. Ha ha ha. You know? But the point is, whatever you have to do to try to prove a negative. Now, how many children died from the last Walmart that you built? What do you mean? Well, we have a report right here that there was a car accident right in front of your Walmart. Yeah, but it's not my fault. That was just a drunk driver speeding. That would have happened whether there was a farm there or not. Oh, but people died from your Walmart, didn't they? Whatever you have to do to create that level of doubt, that's what people are going to do to stop it. Now, let me tell you something. It's not just about neighbors doing this. You might have to do this. Let me tell you something. There's a little bit of me that's a redneck. I watch NASCAR. Because every once in a while, I like to go brain dead. And just watch yeah. So, my driver was Jimmy Johnson. That's Lowe's. Tony Stewart was Home Depot. What happens if there's only enough room in the town for one Lowe's or one Home Depot, but not both? Okay? There's business people that will do the same thing to stop their competition, who can get there first. Okay? It's war. Okay? Because what you don't want to hear is, gee, they beat me, now they've cornered the market, and they've started to develop loyalty. Or apartment buildings. We seem to have thrown up these 3, 4, 5-story nice luxury apartment buildings everywhere. There's only so many millennials that can go into them. Student housing here at Nova. There's only so many apartments that people are going to pay. Who gets there first? Well, how do you stop your opponent? 1, 2, and 3. Chapter 25, find middle ground. Life's short, find the middle ground. .238, last paragraph. Line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do not want to go through the entire public hearing process aggressively, making and protecting your position if you have an opportunity to negotiate some resolution. Cut your deal when it's time to cut your deal. Okay, don't try to prove a point. Make it easy on the elected officials. Go hand in hand. But this is the problem, though. If I was to ask you, what do you think about our president's moral character, you don't need to respond. You're going to have a certain opinion. Then I might say, what do you think about our president's tax cuts and the fact that employment is at the lowest it's been? Many people, because of the moral fiber or lack thereof, cannot objectively look at the tax cuts, the business, maybe we're going to stop nuclear explosions, who knows? It's very hard for most people to separate the personality. Look at the first full paragraph from 242, first full paragraph, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Probably the hardest part is separating people from the problem. It is human nature that our egos. If I said to a homeowner early on in the process, you're an old 82-year-old man, you'll probably be dead before I get my first tower up. Why do you care? Why are you making this point? Just the fact that you can't afford to live in my project, you gotta live in Margate, why are you fighting me here? Okay, blah, blah, blah. That man will use every bit of his living energy to fight me because I disrespected him. Okay? It's no longer about principles. At that point, it's, and we're gonna fight. You're in war. You got to show the love early on in the process. You got to figure out who needs in the community to be reached out to. And you got to give them the respect. Okay? There's always called a bell cow. Cows are not smart, but they put a bell around a certain cow, so and that's the cow that likes to eat the most, when it's time to feed the cow, it moves and all the other cows will follow. Who are the movers and shakers in the community? Have lunch with them. Reach out to them, because they're going to affect opinions in the community. Okay? But it's hard, because people get their nose bent out of shape early on. Especially at a meeting. This is what you do at a meeting. This is where you're going to all do it wrong, and I did it wrong too. You're the community, I'm the developer. I come, and I want to try to sell you my great project. I give you a 45-minute presentation on how great it is. I'm the architect. Now the problem is when you're 82 years old, you can't sit for 45 minutes because you got to go to the bathroom. Okay? And all you want to do is yell and object. So the best thing to do, show up with a piece of white paper. Let people speak first. Because otherwise, they're not listening. They're just waiting for the chance to yell at you. So diffuse the room. Let the people, okay? You know I'd like to do something with the property. We have some opportunities. But before we do that, can I hear from you? Oh, you want me to keep my property a park? That's cute. I hear that all the time. I can't do that, as I'm sure you can understand, because there's towers all around. But you know what I can do? I can create some open space on that you and everyone else can use. So what I've done, I've let you get out your crazy thing in the park. I didn't disrespect you, but I gave you a little bit because it's in my best interest. Traffic, you think traffic's an issue? I agree. But the good news is this, we've done the right studies. We think it's all going to be good. We're going to do some improvements to help make it better for everyone. So I'm glad you brought up the traffic. You start to diffuse it. This is the problem. God gave us 2 ears, one mouth. We should listen twice as much. Very few people listen. When I'm talking to you, all I'm thinking about is how smart I am and how I'm going to interrupt you with my great pearls of wisdom. Very rarely do I sit there and listen to someone. You need to learn to listen. Because that 82-year-old person, they don't want to be disrespected. And if you can listen with intent, and you've let them say their thing, they're going to probably be okay. But if you disrespect them and just shut them up as their 82-year-old man where they know, it's going to bite in the tush. It's about relationships, and that's what a lot of the second book is about. Or look at the last words of 242. It's not about me. This is about getting 3 votes, making money, getting your project approved. Ethics. Do not cross the line. You write all the campaign checks you want, as long as they're the legal limit. It's all public knowledge. Don't be that sleazy developer. Remember I said that you're trying to throw bad stuff up about the developer? Well, don't make it easy for them. Don't do the bad stuff. Okay? You're in it for the long haul. Okay? 245. Third paragraph, line 3. It is far better to bring people together and to plan and develop regulations in the abstract without a particular project or site in mind. That's very important. Let me explain this to you. I used to hate form-based codes. My attitude is, I own land, I want to develop my land. I don't want the city and the city's consultants and architects to do something called a form-based code where they tell me what my building should look like and what the feeling should be and make it look like Meisner Park or everything cute. The hell with you, it's my project. Until they realized, you know what? It's better if I own 10 acres. It's better for me as a developer if the city wants to plan not just my 10 acres, but the other 40, 50 acres around it with a master plan, and I'm part of the process, and then I get what I want into that master plan. This way I don't have the bullseye on my back. Then when it comes time to develop, it's better for me because I almost might be as of right. So my initial reaction as a young developer was to stop every time the government tried to plan my land. Today, I like when my property is part of a sector plan, a downtown neighborhood plan, revitalization plan. Because then it's not just me having to carry the heavy weight uphill. Everyone get that as a concept? And governments do that. They plan at a comprehensive level. They also plan at a sector level. There is a downtown Fort Lauderdale master plan. There is a US 1 corridor master plan. There's the 17th Street corridor master plan in Fort Lauderdale that has 40 different properties on it. Hey, if I'm happy with that plan and I'm in that plan, I get to be below the radar. So that's so critical. Planning can be your friend. We're almost done with the book. 247. 247, third paragraph. First sentence. Being successful at zoning means having the vocabulary of process and techniques that allow you to see, quote, all of the potential alternatives. Whatever you have to do to get the 3 is great. 248. I've given this to my planning students as a question for the last 10 years. 248, second to last paragraph, line 2. Zoning is best done cooperatively with people working together to reach consensus on their community's future. And I would then tell my planning students, discuss. You might leave this school, you might get a job with an apartment REE that does multifamily apartments in southeast of Florida. And you might have 40 apartments in your portfolio today. You might have just done a capital raise where you're trying to add 20 more. And your job is to find location for those 20 apartments. That's 20 different communities. Guess what? You don't live in any of them. You're going to fly in, you're going to push some paper around for approvals, you're going to hire some guy to pour concrete and steel and bricks and roofs, and you're going to throw a whole bunch of people who can't afford a house into this building, in this community, to make money, to create a cash flow. And you're going to fly right back out. You need to be sensitive that when you're done doing your magic as a developer in one of those 20 communities, there's a lot of people who live there, who are not in your project. And you should work with them to get their fingerprints on it. If you take the attitude of, I work for big developer REE and I'm going to do what we want because we're tough. We got 100 million capital raised last month. Hell with you, we'll do what we want. Yeah, you might end up in a courtroom, you might miss the cycle, and your competition might come through. Remember this, I've said this before. I'm going to say this as gently as I can. There are those 98% of Americans that their greatest asset is not their financial portfolio, because they don't have a financial portfolio. All they have is their house. And I said I pray for them, okay? You should pray for them too. Because my job is to get you in the 2% that your greatest assets are your Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs or Merrill Lynch banks, brokerage statement, okay? All they have is their house. And guess what? To make matters worse, they got a mortgage on it. They didn't pay cash. And they're in pretty high, and the markets go like this, and guess what? The guy has 3 daughters, no sons, so that's 3 college educations and 3 weddings he has to pay for. And how's he going to pay for it? He's going to put a second mortgage on his house. 3 times. And you're coming along and you're going to stick in his backyard or her backyard a Walmart? Or some other thing? An apartment building that looks down? And now that equity just gets wiped out, and then they can't get a second home equity because there's line of credit, there's no equity in that. He has to look at his daughters and say, sorry, I can't marry you off. You're going to be a widow the rest of your life. You're going to pay for it. Have I made the point? These are people's feelings. This is their livelihood. They're not here in the Nova Business School learning how to make money. They're just trying to survive. You're coming along, being a hotshot developer, sticking a 6-story apartment in their backyard. Do any of you want to sit in your backyard and look up at levels 4, 5, and 6, and then antennas on the roof? No, I don't. I want to look at trees and parks. You got to take this stuff serious. Okay?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I went to the city of Galleria to get the staff report,
Okay.
and but they did not know what I was talking about. So I said, the review that comes with the development, and they said, well, send us a request for public information. We'll send you a bill for how much it's gonna take for us to, review it, and then we will send it to you, whatever. He said, well, how long could that take? Well, that could take months. So maybe I'm not telling them like that.
I'm going to speak to that towards the end
Okay.
of today, because I'm going to talk about your project.
Maybe there are other names I can use too.
Well, they can, and maybe you just picked. Remember how I made fun of Hialeah? Yeah,
Maybe I just picked the wrong seat.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to try to go through this once again to show you how a presentation maybe should be done. If you remember, the last presentation was about 20 minutes for BDMR. This one is going to be a little bit shorter. But what I want you to see here, process matters, procedure matters. I had a pre-application conference. I worked with staff. I worked with my neighbors. I submitted my plans to the government. We had a development review committee. And the way this was in Fort Lauderdale, since I was not trying to go beyond the height, everything I wanted to do was as of right. Not asking for rezoning to go higher, not asking for a different use. Everything was as of right. However, I still needed to get a site plan approved on the location, and I only went to the Planning and Zoning Commission, not the elected officials. And I got my project approved. Now, the way the code was, there was another 30 days where I had to make sure the city of Fort Lauderdale did not, quote, call it up to review it. But since no one was yelling and screaming in the community, since I worked with my community, since neighbors were not ringing the doorbell off the commissioner's hook by complaining, none of the elected officials felt the need to look at this. They let their Planning and Zoning Commission do the work. The point was, I was able to get it through because of all the work with the community. Okay, this was Pier 66. It's a hotel in, we just kill the lights a little bit. And more than one in the front, right here. Can you control that one there? Yeah, I still want that off. No one's taking notes, and you get a flavor, it's fine. This is Pier 66 Hotel. It's been in Fort Lauderdale for 45 years. Okay? And I'm trying to do a major renovation. But before I talk about the major renovation that I want to do going forward, we already spent about $30 million of capital improvements on redoing the lobby bar, the restaurants, the rooms, the pool. And what this basically is saying, I've already invested $30 million in your town. We're the good guys, we're paying more tax, we're employing people. You should want us to continue to spend more money. But there's a reason why I did that. Now I move on to phase 2. And I want to bring some new hotels, some new residential uses. And guess what? I want to spend another $150 million. I told you in phase 1 I spent the $30 million. Phase 2, I want to spend another $150, and this is why we're here tonight. But notice I first took my own horn. And then phase 3 is we're going to fix the marina, but I don't need your approval for that. We're just going to move some slips around. Okay? These are my consultants. I'm trading on their relations. Holland & Knight is one of the top 3 law firms in Florida. Kimley Horn is the premier traffic engineering firm. EDSA is a global premier land plan, a landscape architect. And Cohen Friedman is my favorite architect. Want to know why? They're a great developer's architect. They're not trying to win an award for themselves. And as a developer, I can tell you this, a building that comes to a 90-degree angle is cheaper to build than some architect, a star architect with curves and twists that want to get some big award, because that's expensive to build. Okay? Good architects that work for developers, they know how to say, what do you want me to do for you, Mr. Developer? Architects that I throw off my team are the ones that are trying to win awards. And quite frankly, this was a small engineering firm. It was a minority consultant, and that's me just being realistic, playing the game. That we have diversity throughout. It's important to do that. When I was doing the Broward County Convention Center Hotel, we had the tower, and then we had the garage. We had a minority consultant do that. Okay, you've got to understand that governments want you to reach out to a broad community. It's not a moral issue, it's a business issue. And this was us, the owner. That was our company, Luxury Resorts. But this is basically indirectly saying, I've put together the right team and we do it right. And then I go into community outreach. There's the sign, I invited them. That's me. This is the 82-year-old men around me looking at the project. You always show pictures of you reaching out to the community. This tells the elected officials, you got political cover. I have worked with the community. We had 2 community output meetings, outreach meetings. Then I try to break the project into phases, okay? Remember I pick on Winn-Dixie? We're gonna take every Winn-Dixie, we're gonna redevelop it. This is valuable land that's a parking lot. This is a tennis court that no one plays. It's too valuable to be waterfront, this location. 45, 50 years ago when they built the hotel, yeah, having parking lot made sense. Today, it's too valuable, okay? I broke it into 4 little phases. The first phase, now notice I do this. I show them 1, 2, 3, 4, to give them a context where we're going, and then I move on to phase 1. 2 11-story buildings, which has some hotels and residential. My height is allowed as of right. My uses are allowed as of right. Now, if you remember, I showed you the Bahia Moore big 27-story tower. That was a PUD, that was not allowed as of right, doing this at the same time. So I didn't want to battle 2 things at the same time. This was get a double and move on. And then here is the land again with the aerial photo sketch from a consultant. And then this is the photo sim that shows the project. And I think I showed you this on day 1 on the board. Remember I brought the board here? Well, if the PowerPoint died, or there was an electrical thing, okay, I had the board to show you. And I told you last time, the government wanted my parking garage below the crest of the bridge. They wanted me to separate the buildings.
They can see water.
Yeah, do I care? If I get on my square footage and my stuff, I'm not going to fight them. I move on. Now I move on to the parking garage quickly that has wrapped of retail. Parking garages are ugly. If you can wrap retail around it, it's good. But you can get married in a parking garage. 1111 Lincoln Road in Miami, on the Lincoln Avenue area, has a parking garage that was done as an architectural statement that they actually hold events open air. It's beautiful. But my point is, parking garages are ugly. Your job is to hide them. If that's the conditions to get approval, yeah, we'll put a facade on it. We'll put different lighting. We'll do whatever you need to get your project approved. Height is always an issue. The sketch you see in the middle is the 17-story existing tower. I'm trying to show how low my project is, okay? It's real hard for people to say I'm not compatible with the neighborhood when there's a 17-story tower there and I'm only in at 11. That's a cross-section. And you can see the 17th Street Causeway, separation for the parking garage. This is the existing tower. Here's my condo. So when some old man comes up and says the building's too big, really? Well, the sister building's been there for 40 years, it's even bigger. Then I moved on to the little office building I had up by the front for the yacht brokers. No one really cared about that. Then I moved on to the tennis court. I needed to take the tennis court out because I needed more parking for the valet. And it was basically 2 levels. It was a surface with 1 ramp up, valet only. The problem is this. I got people living across the river. And what I'm trying to show them, because they're going to complain, I'm saying, look, we have big boats that block the garage. But even if I don't have the big boat there that day, look at all the landscaping I have that you're not even going to see the garage. Remember I said conditions? Whatever I have to do to agree to what amount of landscaping to hide my parking garage, you do. Because the people from here, they vote. They have multi-million-dollar homes. They're going to get through to the mayor. My job is to deal with that up front, so I've already dealt with their issues. Okay, traffic. Traffic is always going to be an issue. Okay? I tried to dummy it down. Do any of you want a D in this class? No. The existing level of service today is a D. It sucks there. My project is not going to make it go to F. It'll still be a D. It sucks before I got here. Okay, remember I said to you, government has the right to take from you. There has to be some type of nexus. It has to be roughly proportionate. You can't make me fix the entire 17th Street Causeway. You got your problems long before I came along. But look what I'm trying to say to people. It sucks. My project, if it gets built, means that the person complaining will have to spend 1.5 seconds more in traffic. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. You can't even get the 2 Mississippi. That's how quickly we get it done. So are we going to stop this $150 million project because that neighbor is not willing to be inconvenienced by 1.5 seconds per day? Okay? One of the things I had to show people, and again, you're going to be fighting traffic your entire career because there's a problem. I said, look, right now people come off 17th Street, we have our gate right here. I'm going to move our gate all the way back. So now all these additional cars can stack in here and not on the highway to help make things better. We're making it better. But what I'm trying to say indirectly is you can't force me to do this because you already approved that. You want the benefit of me making this better? Okay? Approve my project. It's the dance of how you get done what you want. And then I stop at that point, and there's the money shot. And then I sit down, and now I let 82-year-old people come complain what happened. That is how I did a presentation. I did this myself, got it approved, laid it all out there. I think I had my votes ahead of time lined up, and it was okay. Things went forward pretty good. This is someone, I can open this up. Yeah, there it goes. I gave you the handout of the Galleria Mall. This did not get approved. This is taking an aerial photo of the Galleria Mall, taking their parking areas and saying, wow, that's underutilized space. If I can only put towers there, I can make a fortune. All of you should have the skill set to go to Google Earth, print out, or Google Maps, print out an aerial photo of whatever property you want to use for your project. Okay? Steal your younger sister's yellow crayon and color it in. If you know SketchUp or AutoCAD or other software, that's great. But for your project, if the best you can do is somehow print an aerial photo, which I think is pretty, you should be able to do, and then color in around it, yellow for residential, red for commercial, that's all you need to do. But then, professionals start to show what the project looks like. And you can see, it looks like we're doing a lot of redevelopment here, but when you go to here, what this developer has done, and I do all the time, I purposely use a very big lens, so my new buildings don't look as big because I'm seeing everything else. Clearly, if I was to come in more, which they do in a moment, it looks a lot tighter. But this is the thing. You're 82. You live here. You live here. You don't want to look at that, or that, or that, or the traffic, or people trying to cut through your neighborhood. That is the problem. Regardless of what rights you think you may or may not have, neighbors are going to come out. But what you try to do, it's called selling the sizzle, not just the steak. You show what the Galleria Mall could look like on the inside when it gets all redone. People enjoying it, people having fun. Doesn't look like that today. It looks old and tired today. That's what it could look like. And as you go through this, you're trying to get people to go, wow, that's nice. Okay? What you care about is your 20, 30-story towers, but you're selling the sizzle. And this is kind of like the handout that I gave you that shows the different locations. And what they're really trying to do in an urban framework, it's very hard to do a park, but they're basically trying to create a linear park for people to walk around. Anyone. You can go to the mall today and walk in the mall, but if they redo this, you can also be outside. This is the site plan, just trying to get it sold. And yes, we have, if you want all that pretty stuff I showed you, unfortunately, it comes with density. Because we need the density for it to work, we need the dollars for it to do all the pretty stuff. Okay? Notice I said before how to work on conditions. Notice, see this here is pretty tall, right? But what you do from a planning point of view, notice you go up 3 levels and then you pull the height back and then you go up. That makes for a better ground experience. All of you need to understand that. That's good urban plan and urban design. You as developers have to understand most people look 2, 3 levels up. They don't appreciate that. So go up, then pull it back. That's how you would say, I will design my project this way if I can get your support.
So what's the status of this project now?
Oh, it's dead. They'll come back in. I'm just trying to show you, they try to get it approved with the sexy pictures. I showed you some that were approved, some that weren't. You just never know what's going to happen. And again, there, the tower takes up, what, 17% of the skyline? Not much. You purposely try to show a lot of blue sky. You're going to stop a mother and her daughter from having a moment together, shopping at the new revised live Galleria? What kind of person are you? How about a grandfather and a grandchild? That grandchild needs the wisdom of the grandfather. You're going to stop that wisdom going on from generation to generation. Because you don't want to look at progress, because you're being selfish. Everything's phased. You got to realize you can't do it all at once. Expect the government and planning staff to say, okay, what's your phasing plan? How are you going to build this? Where are they going to park? Remember, you got to meet parking requirements all through construction. Okay, where are the cranes going to go? Where's your staging area? These are the things you got to think about. When I'm doing hotel redevelopments or mall redevelopments, I'm not closing down the mall or hotel. I'm doing this renovation while people are still spending money there. You got to think through everything from that perspective. Let me make fun of Pompano. No, Pompano has a purpose. The purpose of Pompano is for people in Boca Raton to buy Mercedes. We proved that. Remember I said to you, you need to line up 3 things. Your pro forma, your market study, and your land use investigation. You've got to get all three lined up to make money. What do you do? I'm picking on Pompano on purpose. Pompano is going through a renaissance and it will continue to create more value. What do you do when the government says, we will give you whatever you want, developer, from a land use point of view? Okay? What happens if there's no market for it?
You create one.
Maybe. And I think that's what they're trying to do. Pompano's trying to get to the next level. So they hired a consultant. They have the Community Redevelopment Agency. This is their core, east of I-95, between Dixie, north of Atlantic. They want to do a more walkable type community. And this was, remember I said to you, I like a form-based code? Let's assume I own this. And if I try to get my project rezoned only, there's a big bullseye in my back, you're all coming after me, right? What happens if I can convince the government to hire a consultant to plan a renaissance for the whole downtown? Okay? And I'm part of that, but you're not staring directly at me. And clearly, you're going to put the higher density here, where these two main roads intersect, and then it'll get lower throughout. So, using the planning process for your project, it might even be worth you writing a $100,000 check to hire the consultant to plan a greater area, realizing the filet mignon's what you really care about, but you don't want to just have the spotlight on you alone. Everyone get that as a concept? So this is Pompano trying to redevelop themselves. Here's the plan. Yeah.
So with CRAs, are they, in terms of the planning and zoning, are they part of the city's planning and zoning, or are they a separate entity?
Every city's slightly different. What a community redevelopment agency is, it's like a mini government within the government. Delray Beach had one on the avenue. Boca Raton used one when they redid Meisner Park. Pompano's doing one. And what you're really doing is, you're basically using tax increment financing, where you're saying, we want to make a blighted area better. The only way to make it better is if we can get money from Wall Street with bonds to have the money to put in better water, sewer, drainage, improvements, skies, street lights, pavers, and what have you. But we need the tax dollars that we create to stay here to pay the bonds off. Okay? Unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption going on with CRAs. For this purpose only, for this class, because we're general, a CRA is part of a government. But usually it's in the part of town that they're trying to fix. I can teach a whole class just on CRAs. But it's a community redevelopment agency, and this is where they came up with a plan to try to make things better, block by block, piece by piece. And they laid it out parcel by parcel. My point to you is, you got your approvals, there they are. You got your land use. But do you have the market for it? You say create a market, that's great, but do people want to be there? And at what point are they willing to be there? At $12 a square foot, I'll rent there. At $25 a square foot, I'll go to Boca or Fort Lauderdale. So you got to get your pro forma to work, your market study to work, and your land use. I gave you this to show you, just because the government's willing to make the land use approval process easy for you, does not mean that you're going to want to do the deal. Okay? And yeah, the goal is to create mixed-use development projects like that. That's real pretty, right? That's real pretty unless you're the person in the single-family house a block away that's now looking at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-story building. People don't like change, especially as they get older. You've lived here for 30 years. Now all of a sudden you're going from blue sky to a 7-story monstrosity. And that's a nice word on how they describe it. So don't expect people to just support you because it's progress. We do,
So
yeah.
is the CRA subordinate to the local municipality?
I can't answer that question because each one's different.
Okay.
Delray Beach used to be parallel. They could say F you until they kicked them out and they took it over. Fort Lauderdale, the elected officials have on their elected official hat, then they put on their CRA hat. But each one's different. And Miami-Dade, they're all corrupt, so.
So it's municipality by municipality?
Yeah, you gotta, like anything else, read the zoning code, read the charter. Okay. Remember I said to you, governments will make plans? Boca Raton has a comprehensive plan. Boca Raton has a zoning code. They also have a downtown master plan. And if you happen to be a landowner in the downtown Boca Raton area, work with your fellow landowners, okay? Sorry, it's not a PowerPoint, so I can't flip it quickly. Work with your fellow landowners and figure out how to work together. If all you care about is you want to put a new hotel at Palmetto Park Road and Federal Highway, which they just opened up a Hyatt Place with a Boss Louis, or whatever, the restaurant here, and that's your main focus, or you really care about the new apartment building here, this is people working together. We all have an opinion when it comes to the NRA, right? What that is, it's a trade association. So you don't have H gun manufacturer lobby in their case, you have the NRA. You also have, you know, the American Heart Association that does their lobbying. The point of it is, developers, landowners can get together, work with government on a master plan for an area where not each individual person. So what happens in Miami-Dade? When the business community gets pissed off, you know who brings the lawsuit against Miami-Dade County? The Latin Builders Association. They are the most politically connected powerhouse to represent the building community. But it's not George Perez or Mr. Swar. It's not any individual developer. They hide behind your trade association. So what I'm trying to say to you, if you're a landowner, work with other landowners, work with governments, do a plan, get the plan blessed early on, then you know that you can build according to the plan. Okay? Planning does not necessarily have to be an enemy. It can be a way for you getting what you want into a tax bill type of thing. I don't care if they're doing these tariffs or this or that, as long as my company gets an exemption. Look at this. You always show in any plan the community outreach. There's the 82-year-old man. There's his 82-year-old wife, not the trophy wife. Okay? There they are. You want to show this to say, hey, we reached out to the community. They were there. They came to the meetings. We rolled the plans out. We worked with everyone. Now what's going to happen? The Boca Raton Master Plan took several years to get together. There's always going to be new people who move to town who are not part of the plan. But by showing the pictures, you can at least get them to see that there have been planning issues. So all of you need to get comfortable whenever you do a project. You always ask, what's the comp plan? What's the zoning? And then you say, hey, are there any special plans that affect my property? a corridor plan, or sector plan, or master plan. Okay, and government will tell you.
Is there an exact like time limit every time that they revisit these plans?
No,
Like, so do they
there's
every
not.
20
The only
years?
time limit is on the comprehensive plan.
That's 20 years.
That was every 7 in Florida.
7.
Okay, you were supposed to read the Kunz versus St. John's Water Management District. Case is 5 years old, developer won, Water Management District lost. That same property today is going through an approval process, okay? This is from Orange County government. The first thing that you need to do, and I've already said this to you, and I try to embarrass you so you don't look stupid.
Read.
Well, besides read, know where you are. Are you in the city of Orlando, or are you in Orange County, and you happen to have a post office address of Orlando? You would look real stupid if you start lobbying the city of Orlando elected officials. They're going to say to you, lobby us all you want, we'll take all your campaign checks. Your property is not in the city limits. You're in the unincorporated area. That's why it's Orange County. So the first thing is, where are you? Okay? This is 2 major roads. Here's the property, whole bunch of wetlands over here. Okay? They want to put a hotel on the property. Okay? And applicant's name. Most development today are done through single-purpose LLCs. What can I say?
Loretta?
No, George Perez is coming. Lorated.
Related.
Related.
Yeah.
I've been talking for too many hours. He doesn't own a single piece of property. Every building he does is its own single-purpose LLC. Okay? Now, at a corporate level, he owns it all. So you create an LLC for that property. This way, if there's a lawsuit, other properties don't affect it. Street address, the existing use is undeveloped. Every piece of property has a parcel ID number. You can sit on your phone right now, if you own a house, you can find your piece of property on your iPhone. You can find out your tax bill, where you are, you get a map for it. And there's acreage. What they want to do with this property, okay? Future land use map amendment request. Today the property, remember I showed you day one, a land use map?
Yes.
It had commercial and it has multifamily. Their property they own has 2 designations. They have a C and they have an MDR. And they want to put the whole thing to a C. Okay? And they have zoning that is C1 and C2, and they want to make all of it C1. Okay? So this property, for the Kunz case, is going through a comprehensive plan amendment. It is going through a rezoning, and it's setting the stage for up to 849,000 square feet of commercial development in the form of a hotel. Okay? Everything is about process. Community meters. Remember I said you reach out to the community? They reached out to the community. Many codes require that. I do 5 times more community outreach than any code would ever require me because it's that important. Then staff issued their report. They recommend that it should be approved. Then they're going through the rezoning hearing and the adoption of the comprehensive plan. This is where it goes. Procedure matters. So you could pick for your final project, this project, let's say. You can't do this one, but I'm saying if you were, you would talk to the class, and you would say, I found a piece of property in Orange County, adjacent to the city limits of Orlando, but it goes by the name Orlando. And it's adjacent to some wetlands, but it's by two major roads, and I think a hotel would go really well. Unfortunately, I can't do the hotel today, but since I've taken the class in this book, I know that if I don't have what I want, I change it. And what am I doing? I'm changing the comprehensive plan, and I'm changing the zoning map to do what I want. Okay? And you can see the subject property, and you can see the additional land that they own that won't get developed. The whole litigation was Mr. Coons was willing to say, I won't touch this. Just let me do something here. And the government said, nah, not only are we going to take this from you, we're going to take this from you, and you can do something here only. Or if you want to do all this, then you got to go down here and fix something else for us for about $1 million. And he sued and he won. Government went too far. So now the same property is back with another developer. And this developer and the government's playing nice now, and they're all focused on let's do a hotel. But you should be able to get Google Earth, and if you can't electronically put in the parcel lines, get a crayon.
Now, the government that he sued was the Orange County government, right?
He sued the St. John's Water Management District because they refused to give him a permit.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking that if he was suing the Orange County and they actually won, maybe there would be like some kind of bad blood, you'd have to work with them later.
Sometimes, but you know, hey, I need to make money. I can't worry about relations. Okay, let me show you something. This is the red, right? Remember I told you yellow is residential? And you see how the orange is higher density than this? This is the property that they want to change, and you can see the goal is to make all of it red. So there's a lot of pushing of paper to go from red and orange to solid red. This is the current, this is the proposed. This is changing a comprehensive plan. Same thing with zoning. C1, C2, now it's all C1. Remember, zoning has to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. This developer wants to do a hotel, but to do the hotel, they have to first do those amendments.
And is that because C1 is the one that allows for the hotel?
I haven't looked at it that closely. I'm just trying to teach as a concept for you to see how to do your project. This is the staff report. Staff recommendations. Okay? But clearly, they need the C1 to do the hotel, it looks like. But this is what staff does. They look at the future land use amendment request, they look at the rezoning request. And remember I said to you conditions? Write this down. Ready? Don't be a butthead. Don't be anal retentive. Don't be self-defeated. If government says to you, we don't want any new billboards and poles on the property, and if you have no reason to put one there anyway, even though constitutionally you feel you might have that right, and if that's what's standing in the way of you getting a positive staff report, say, yes, I agree to that condition, and move on. You agree to a buffer. Government is always going to say, can you make the buffer a little wider or a little taller to make it more compatible with your neighbors? Yes, I can. Okay? And I agree that I will submit a site plan that says I meet all of the requirements. This is pretty easy stuff. I can agree those conditions. Then staff goes through their analysis. You can read a staff report. You should all have this, or you'll have it before the end of class today to look at. Okay? And they go through the word consistency. You need to know that word. Zoning needs to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, and your project needs to be consistent with both of them. Remember I said 7, 7, 7? They got to line up. This is pretty standard stuff. Compatibility. You want the government to say that your project's compatible. Remember I said before, everyone's mother thinks you're pretty or handsome, whatever? Well, you want to make sure government feels that way. You don't want to be swimming upstream against the current with a negative staff report from government. It's not compatible. You don't want to litigate that issue. You go through environmental issues, which were big for this thing. You see your property, they always look at what's north, east, west, and south. I think I said to you, I'm not going to make you on your final exam go to Boynton Beach, but quite frankly, it would be great if all of you could go to Boynton Beach, to Woolbright and US 1 to look around. Wherever you're going to do your project, you should go look north, east, west, and south. You got to have that aha moment. And then government starts going through the zoning criteria for C1. You got to have a minimum size lot. There has to be certain width. There has to be setbacks. That's why a staff report that government prepares gives you all the information you'd ever want. Okay? So look at this. Is my lot big enough? Yes. And is it wide enough? Yes. How high can I go? 50 stories. I'm not going to go beyond that. Okay? Here are my setbacks, front, rear, side. Here's the uses that I'm allowed. Okay? Talks about water, wastewater, where I'm getting that from. Schools, parks, recs. This is impact fees, maybe. Here's the policies that shows that my project meets what the government wants in the comprehensive plan. And then here's some aerial photos of what's around. And then here's the notice area. Remember I said to you, people get mailed notice? Based on the corners of the property request, they can mail out, one had to be for the zoning and one had to be for the comp plan. And the computer says you have to mail out 425 notices. And their area here happened to be bigger, 1,200. So when I keep saying to you 300 feet, 300 feet, don't take me as gospel. Ready? Read the code. So you would have your consultant sign an affidavit that you sent out all of those notices. This stuff's important. I've been talking about this throughout the class. This is kind of like the level playing field. Okay? You need to have proper notice to everyone. Otherwise, they have the right to come back and say, I did not get the notice. Okay, this is the case you were supposed to read. The first couple of things was more of an introduction. Talks about Nolan and Dolan. Goes through the facts of what he wants to do. Okay? And then the case has what's known as a majority opinion. This was a 5-4 decision. Roe v. Wade was a 5-4 decision. That means 5 people thought that the developer should win, 4 people thought the government should win. You don't want to take chances on a 5-4. How many of you would like to do the following? I'll either give you an A or an F for your final grade in this class. There's no in between. You better make me happy, if not, you're gonna get the F. So it's a pretty tough standard. 5.4 could easily be 5.4 the other way. That's why you try to settle. So, can we hit the lights, please? Yes, sir. At the end of the day, this becomes the site plan for the property. All of this doesn't get built on, and here's the hotel up there. This is what you want the government to do. So for your final presentation, if you did this, I'm making this up, I did a rehearse. You would say, hi, I got my 4 minutes, I'm a little nervous, I don't like public speaking, I'd rather hold the snake, but I'll do the best I can, okay? My property is in Orange County, right outside the city limits of Orlando. The Board of County Commissioners for Orange County have to approve this, not the City Commission for Orlando. It's by 2 major intersections, okay? We needed to change the comprehensive plan, and we needed to do a rezoning. The property went through that. It had a positive staff report. It had everything that it had to get done. Because they worked with the neighbors, they worked with staff, and what they were doing was consistent. Then after we had the right comprehensive plan, and we had the right zoning in place, remember the 3 7s have to line up? I have 7 for my comp plan, 7 for my zoning. Now I got to get my site plan lined up. This is it. We meet all setbacks by the code. We meet all height limitations. We meet all use things. And we preserved the wetlands. And now we have a Hampton Inn ready to go. And then if this was the next class, if I was to teach you, I would say, show me your pro forma on that Hampton Inn. What is your cost to build it? When are you going to start being able to rent out rooms? What is your cost to operate? Then how long are you going to hold it for? Then what's the cap rate you're going to exit? Remember the name of my yacht is called Exit Strategy to get out the door? Don't fall in love with a piece of property. The sole purpose of you knowing about a comprehensive plan and a zoning and a site plan is for one thing, to create an income stream. Okay? If I have another kid, which I probably won't, I would want to name my kid Ibada.
What?
Ibada.
Earnings before income.
Yeah, Ibada. That's all people in Blackstone know about, Ibada. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, administration. How much effing money am I gonna make? Do I care about where the trees are, what the site plan looks like, where the dumpsters go? No. The people in New York don't care about that. That's my job on the ground. But you have to understand why you're here at Nova, paying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 between student loans and cash to be here, is you're trying to maximize EBITDA to make money, but in order to make money in real estate, unless you're only buying existing things that are already built. If you're buying things that are already built, I showed you that PZR report. You do a quick basic, yeah, meet zoning, no big deal. Let's just try to lower cost of operations, and let's just increase the rent roll, hold it, flip it, and get out and do it again. But if you're buying something that has to be redeveloped, repositioned, or built for the first time, you need to know what jurisdiction am I in? What's my comprehensive plan? What's my zoning? What site plan do I have to do? What do I have to do to get a positive staff report? And realize it's very dynamic because neighbors are just not going to sit by and let you put a 50-foot high Hampton Inn or Marriott Residence Inn when they're there and they don't want to see it anymore. Okay, this is the site plan. The most important thing on a site plan is the site data table, the development regulations. Your consultant is going to give you everything that you need. how high, how many parking, setbacks, everything. So this is what you want to get approved. Once, if you go to, let's call it the Orange County Planning, Zoning, and Building Department, you go to the right to deal with the planning and zoning. You work with them through their development review committee to get this approved. Then you go to probably a planning and zoning board and then the county commission to approve this. Then once they approve this, you wait the 31 days. You call New York again, you say, guess what, no one sued, we're good. Now you go back to your architect who did conceptuals only and you say, okay, now that we got it approved and now that the time for the lawsuits have gone by, I need you to do something called CDs, construction drawings. I need another 3 or 4 months to do the actual drawings to go get a building permit. And you go over to the left side of the same building to get a building permit. No more public meetings, no more 82-year-old people yelling and screaming. It's have you technically met the building code or not. Then you get a building permit, but you got to pay impact fees at that time. That's when you pay the road, water, sewer, library, police, fire impact fees. And how this ties back to the Coons case, government can reach in your pocket. There has to be a nexus. It has to be roughly proportioned, how much they're taking. They can't make you, for a little Hampton Inn, do a whole new interchange. And they probably can't make you do school impact fees. Why? If you go to a hotel, chances are you don't have school kids. Okay? But they might make you do park impact fees, because people